What's up? This is another excerpt of why I left Atlanta. And for those of you who've been commenting saying that I'm an old guy who dresses young because I wear baseball caps, okay, I mean, get out of here with that. The video that you're talking about, I had on a polo jacket, I had on a polo hoodie, I had on Levi jeans, a pair of Timberlands, and a Yankees cap. I'm 49 years old. And the dude said it's because I had a sticker. It's like I'm dressing like a young dude because the sticker was still in my, you know. Oh my God! And somebody said I'm not growing up. Like young guys dress like this because they don't. Oh, old guys dress like this because they don't grow up. I'm like 49-year-old men should not wear a baseball cap or a hoodie. We shouldn't wear hoodies. We shouldn't do that. That we shouldn't. You people got too much time on your hands. Um, I'm too old to wear a hoodie. I didn't know that. Anyways, shoot. Let's see. What did I talk? I talked about almost everything in Atlanta, but this is kind of like a retort because somebody also said that you don't go to Atlanta if you're poor. But nonetheless, I've seen so many videos where people went to Atlanta and they said they didn't have any money. One person said they moved down there with no money or $100 or $150. They said don't move to don't Atlanta is not for poor people. I'm just like there are millions of poor people in Atlanta. You know, have a good job. They were trying to criticize me. I didn't have a good job or whatever. It's just like where you people who try to lightweight criticize me in that video, you're just comical. I'm too old to wear a hoodie and a Yankees cap, and I'm too poor to live in Atlanta. But nonetheless, I lived there for a whole year. My apartment was what three $600. You know, I was able to afford my rent. Keep my lights on, everything. I worked. I had two jobs. So I don't understand where y'all get y'all information from. The reason why, I mean, there are several reasons why I left Atlanta, but one of the biggest reasons why I left Atlanta is because I was being discriminated against, and the job that I was working at the museum down there, and when I was working down there, I got fired because the manager down there was racist as hell, and this black woman asked me about one of the mummies, and I was a security guard. She just said, asked me a question about a mummy. And as soon as I answered her, the manager jumped in my face and started pointing in my face. And I tried to move out the way because I really needed my job. And I told you guys the story in the other video. I moved out the way, and he kept pointing at me, and I kept getting it like get his finger out my way because I wanted to hit him. But I was like, nah, I need my jobs. You know what I'm saying? I'm a working man. It is what it is. Nonetheless, he was like, the black woman was like, I asked him a question. Like, I didn't know I was instructed not to talk to these people. It's like I asked the man a question, like, how and the dude didn't want to hear it. He kept pointing in my face, and I was like, I'm about to. So I kept trying to get out the way, and I was like, the lady asked me a question. I answered her question, and it was a quick answer, too. And he saw it. He was just waiting for a reason to jump on me. And I don't know, he wasn't white. He was like Arab or whatever, where he's from. Anyway, him and it was another dude that was the same race. He was like, let's go downstairs. And basically, I knew I was fired. I tried to take the stairs. He tried to come down the stairs. And he was trying to get me fired. He was trying to get me to get riled up so I could hit him. So I went to take the stairs. He started walking down the stairs behind me. So I went and jumped on the elevator. He gets on the elevator with me. So I just didn't want any trouble. As soon as we got downstairs, both of them was ready to jump on me, and I already knew I lost my job. But the problem is, I lost both jobs. I worked as a clerk in a hospital too. Suit and tie every day. And when you lose your one job for that temporary company, you lose all your jobs. And when I lost both of my jobs, that was one of the reasons I moved back to Ohio, because the job market down there is fierce, and and the people who were running the temporary company, they were black. And I told them that I didn't do anything wrong. I even had that lady vouch for me. And they were like, well, we can't have you working at the hospital. And like what I did, like I did something so heinous. And then I said, listen, why don't you can look at the cameras and see that I did absolutely nothing wrong. They didn't want to hear it. They were like, you're fired. You can't work here. And I was just like, all right. So I called a friend of mine, and they came and got me and moved me right back, to Ohio. And I was homeless. So I had to live with somebody until, I got my act together. I got a job out here and, moved myself into an apartment, and that's just the way it went. So, was I poor? I was a working man. I was living over the poverty line. I think which is 12,000 a year. You know what I'm saying, or something like that, or 1,300 a month. I don't know. I was above that. I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't want one. I didn't need one. I had my bike. I rode it everywhere and put it on the front of the bus. Got around like that. The MARTA system is everywhere I needed to be. And I wasn't poor. I wasn't, starving, to the point where, I was okay. I had food in my refrigerator. I was doing all right until I lost my jobs. And this and this happens to millions of people all the time. They lose their job, they have to downsize, they have to go do something else, they have to go live somewhere else, live with a family member, friend, double up. I was doing that all by myself. When I first moved down there, I was with my sister. We got into it, so I left her place and I got my own place. So I could afford to live in Atlanta. I just lost my jobs. And I didn't want to risk being homeless in Atlanta and trying to find, like, I went on a job search in Atlanta. This is how bad it is in Atlanta when it comes to finding a job. I went on a job, like I answered an ad because I had to start looking, or I was gonna have to migrate back. Now, mind you, I was down there to see my little girl, to try to be closer to her. It just didn't work because I didn't get any closer to her. So that's another reason why I left, is because of my baby's mother and my daughter. I hardly got to see her. So it was like, why am I struggling down here when I can move back to Ohio and be okay? Y'all don't want to see me? I didn't care about the mother wanting to see me. I cared about my daughter. But when the mother wouldn't let my daughter see me a lot, I was like, to hell with struggling. Screw it, I'm leaving. I can't get what I'm here for, so I left. And that's, hey, it is what it is. But nonetheless, so here's the way the job search goes down there. But no, this is years ago when I lived down there. I went and started going through the paper, right? Like everybody does. You looking for a job. This tells you how old this is. I started answering, I started looking in the paper. I started trying to find a job, and I answered this ad, and they had it. Forgot where it was. It was at a big public place where they had it. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of people waiting in line just to talk to five recruiters. It was off the chain. You would have thought a mega church let out. Everybody was dressed up. It was his job. There were so many of us that the one recruiter I talked to, she was shaking. There were just so many of us. She was just nervous. In the interview, it didn't even go like a one-on-one interview. She was just asking me what my skills were. And I said, I did this, I did that. I used to work at the Ohio House of Representatives, this, that, and the third. And, and I ended up getting her, her phone number, and which is really weird because she gave me her phone number, and I'm like, I don't think you give everybody your phone number. I called her, and she never, like, she'd pick up the phone, but she'd never say anything. Like this was her home phone number. She wrote her number down. She looked at me, wrote her number down, and I called her. And I was like, this is the guy from, the. I'm looking for a job still. I didn't care about her. I cared about the job. She never she never said a word. So I don't know if her nervousness was because of me. I don't know. I just thought it was weird that she gave me her home phone number. But nonetheless, they were really overwhelmed because there was so many people, and they didn't have a bunch of those jobs. I even thought about being a cop because they was hiring. And I talked to a friend at the job fair. She was like, "Yeah, I thought about being a cop too." But they was like, yo, you don't want to be a cop. You'll end up in a ditch somewhere stinking like somebody will kill you. I was just like, oh, like he was talking about how cops, do each other down there. I was just like, oh, well, forget that. So when I couldn't find a job fast enough, I paid my last month's rent and I dipped. You know. So just to let you guys know, I don't know if you considered me the working poor, but I was able to afford to live in Atlanta. It wasn't like I was down there and had zilch. I was doing what I wanted to. I went to the movies all the time. I kicked it. You know what I'm saying? I'd go out of the club like maybe once or twice. I don't know. I didn't really care about the club. I don't even go to the club here. But I wasn't out on my ass. I was surviving and I was doing okay. All right. So there's that. It's your boy Tone 202. Lastly, once again, I'm not trying to be some young dude. I don't talk like they talk. I don't even know what young people do. But just because I got on baseball cap, Yankees, a cap that I like, you guys need to relax. And I got hoodies. I got a lot of hoodies. Okay, I like hoodies and baseball caps. All right, so you guys need to chill. And yeah, man, God loves y'all. I'm out.